Thank you, Itumeleng, from IM Productions. I'm so privileged to be hosted by you at this event. And I'd just like to greet the audience and say you are in the right place today and at the right time. And it is my privilege to be able to bring to you a few nuggets of wisdom that I have gained over the years. And in terms of women and leadership, it is always a pleasure for us to be able to share this, especially for women who are coming into leadership and those of you who are in leadership currently and finding your way through when you're facing your challenges. So it's always lovely to hear from others and also to gain these, what I would call nuggets of wisdom. And they're easily shared. And as women, we would love to share, I would love to share this with you so that together we can all journey together in life, and as we tackle various aspects of our life, like our careers and as women in management and leadership, we will be able to foster good relationships with others. We would be able to build good relationships with people in our communities, as well as in the business world, in the academic world. So I come from higher education and in specific academia. And in academia, we also have various aspects of leadership and management that we would encounter on a daily basis. Being in a senior management position has taught me a lot of things over the years, and that's what I would love to share with you today. So my background is in education. I've spent the first 15 years of my career in basic education, and I've moved through the ranks of being a teacher, of being a head of department, of being a deputy principal, and being a principal of a school. And thereafter, after having studied, I joined academia, that is in higher education, at the University of Limpopo, and I've been here for the last 15 years. And through this time in higher education, I've also have had a lot of experience as a leader and also as a female leader, which has enabled me to bring you these nuggets of wisdom today. So I'm going to start with the first one, and it's called consistency and reinvention. So now if you look at consistency, I think it's one of a very good principle for us to use as women leaders and managers, because consistency for me, it has meant that no matter what has taken place in my life, I've still been able to be consistent as a person in my thinking, in my decisions, despite having had challenges and hardships along the way. And currently we find ourselves in this COVID era, which is unprecedented, and many of us never even thought or dreamt that we would find ourselves in this situation. And being there means we have to change the way in which we think and look at things, how we manage, how we lead. And as women, especially those of us who have household duties as well, and we have homes and families, we've had to reinvent ourselves there. However, when I look at consistency, I'll give you an example. For example, with COVID, my family and I have been affected in many different ways. And in the second wave, we were all infected at the same time. And we also had a loss in that I lost my sister during that time. So the whole process of grieving became meaningful to me and took on a whole new I took on a whole new perspective when it came to that. And as you go through this process, I'm also very aware that I'm not in this alone, not only as a family, but if we look at my colleagues and my friends and just the whole world for that matter, there's a whole lot of loss and death. And I think the way in which we approach this, when I say consistency, I mean, how do we deal with grief? And sometimes grief can be very hard and very difficult, and it can throw us in different directions. It's important for us to be consistent in how we deal with it. And I've learned that there are so many people around you who you can learn from, who've been through such a situation before. And more importantly, it's how we go through the process. And it leaves you, it changes you, but at the same time, you grow during the process. So in terms of us as women leaders and managers, and I think very often we change. We are not consistent in the way we approach our careers and our decisions on a daily basis because of what we're going through. Right now, we're all going through grief, but should that change us in terms of our careers, our work, our daily work? It may. However, the consistency with which we approach our daily work is very important. And I think especially if you're a businesswoman, for example, if you're selling something on a daily basis, the fact that you're going through a grieving process shouldn't affect that, because it's going to affect your livelihood a bit later on. So, I'm always reminded of this example that my pastor uses very often, and that is the example of Job in the Bible. And, when various things happen to you, which they are going to, in your career, in your business, as an academic, as a woman, as a leader, these things are going to happen to you on a daily basis. But how you react to that, your consistency through the decisions is very important. And I also said consistency and reinvention. Now, those seem contradictory, because consistent means you are doing the same thing at the same time over and over again. However, reinvention is a little bit different, because through those consistent acts, you're able to reinvent the way you think, the way you act, the way you approach your business, the way you approach your career, the way you approach decision making, the way you approach academic activities that are assigned to you. So I think, although they may appear contradictory, but I think consistency and constantly reinventing the way you think, the way you feel, and a little bit of introspection along the way goes a long way. Then I also wanted to speak to you about the second one that I have, a second nugget of wisdom that I have for you, and that is simple and gradual. Now, simplicity is a very complex term, another contradictory one. It's a very complex term because when you keep it simple, very often people say keep to the basics. Because the basics is what allows you to progress beyond the initial levels. And I always believe in simplicity. It doesn't matter whether it is in your approach to people, in your leadership style, but keeping it simple for me means you don't complicate matters more than they should. Very often matters are complex, but keeping it simple in how you approach the matters makes a difference in terms of leadership. And even in your career, I think keeping it simple is how you approach different aspects of your career. Now, a career is built, and it's built over time, it's built over years of experience and different situations that you go through, different levels in your career. And keeping it simple enables you to add layers to your career that you would not normally do if you complicate matters regularly. And I also believe in gradual. And I'll, in terms of gradual, sometimes there are situations that propel you into doing things, on the spur of the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that. But gradual is, especially when it comes to a woman in management and leadership, I believe that you instill your ideas and your thoughts and gradually into a position or into a role, And because very often when we approach things, suddenly, especially when you're in a leadership position, it brings a bit of shock to the system and people react in different ways. However, when you do things gradually, you take people along with you, and that actually helps the process. So my next nugget of wisdom is, experience is a good teacher. Now, we all go through experiences on a daily basis. And if you're in leadership and in management, your experiences can be good, they can be very challenging, they can hurt you, they can change you forever. But I believe it's important for us to realize that experience is a good teacher. So I'm going to give you an example of experience being a good teacher for myself. So I've spent 15 years in basic education and another 15 in higher education. So when I was in basic education and around the 94 to 98 period, 1994 to 1998, when our country had its first democratic elections and the Department of Education, a national body, was formed. I was a teacher at that time and a level 1 teacher. And I applied for promotions, when the dust had settled and the promotions, the first round of promotions, the call had come out, and we were all excited in applying for promotions. So I applied for about 15 schools to be a head of department. And I was called to these 15 interviews. And I can tell you the experience that I gained from that, really up till today, it holds me in good stead. Because I was able to go to different types and kinds of schools, that really changed the way in which I viewed education, the way in which I viewed basic education, and the way in which I wanted to be a change agent in the school environment. And you know what? I did not get a promotion in that round. And then that was another teaching moment for me, or a very good experience, because I realized that there were a number of teachers who were waiting for a good few years and they were acting in these positions. And then I realized that these people need to be promoted. They've been faithful, they need to go along. So it wasn't about me, it was about the experience that I went through. And lo and behold, 2 years later, the next round came around. And I have applied and I was successful in my own school. So I think sometimes when we go through experiences, what we take out of the experience is very important. And I believe experience is a good teacher. Sometimes it doesn't feel nice at that point when you're going through the experience, no matter what it is. However, in hindsight, you realize that it prepared you for something else, for something different. Leadership and management can be very complex, it can be very demanding, and the more experiences you go through, the better prepared, the calmer you are in your leadership response in later experiences that you face. So I do believe experience is a good teacher, and I also want to just add to that, a few years later, I was also applying again for a promotion to deputy principal, and I was shortlisted for, I had applied for 5 schools and I was shortlisted in all these schools. And lo and behold, the same process applied again. People who had been in these positions were given the posts, and I had thought the experience was now over and I'd learned from it tremendously. And out of the blue, I received a visit from our circuit manager who said, "You've been promoted." And I said, "Where? How? Why?" All these things, like it was a very big surprise to me. And then started my experience of serving in a rural school which had nothing. And, that's a story for another day, where my life really changed through that experience of 4 years that I served in that school, where we started from a cardboard school to having a brand new school, and the experiences that I went through, especially with people, with the community, and how it prepared me for the current role that I am in as well. So I do believe experience is a good teacher, and I would advise you to view your experiences positively, and even if they are negative experiences. The next nugget of wisdom that I'd like to share with you is learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now that's a very broad concept, and applied to a woman, especially in a leadership position or a woman owning a business. This happens to you like regularly, like on a daily basis. And, you learn so many things about your job, what it should be, what you should be doing, you're ticking the correct columns and the correct boxes. That's your learning process. And then something hits you, like, for example, in recent times, we've had a lot of unrest in certain parts of the country. Here you are, a businesswoman, successful, having a business, and within a morning, everything that you've dreamt of and owned, etc., just gets destroyed. And what do? You sort of have to be in a position where everything that you've learned about, etc., has to change completely. You have to unlearn all that and relearn. How do I get up? How do I arise from this? And that's one of the themes of this seminar, is that resilience. How do you become resilient in such a situation? Sometimes you would want to just dig a hole and bury your head inside, but you have to re-emerge. You have to relearn certain things. For example, in business, you may know the principles of how to operate a sound business, but COVID changed the way in which you would approach your business. And, we're doing a lot of things virtually, and we're buying and selling online. And how do you approach your business in such a situation? And so sometimes you have to unlearn even good habits. You'll have to unlearn them. Good skills, you'll have to, relearn, reapproach them. So I think a very good principle for us is to be constantly learning. In academia, we learn constantly, and the starting point is a PhD, especially in academia. And some people think, I've got a PhD, I have arrived. I would say you've arrived at the bottom step of the ladder, because now you start climbing. And every rung of the ladder is a new experience in your academic life, and it brings so much of joy and satisfaction, contentment to you as you climb each step. So I think we should approach life with that, with the concept of learning things on a daily basis, and then unlearning things is not very easy, and relearning it in a different context. So if we are resilient in that aspect, it can actually take us a long way. And then I'd like to talk about the next point, a valuable nugget of wisdom that I have learned along the way, and that is your role as a woman. It's a bit of a balancing act, and there are a number of things that you can balance, and you should balance in terms of your career and your personal life as well. And sometimes balancing can mean you, in your daily interaction with people, especially if you're a career woman, how do you balance your time? How do you balance your relationships? How do you balance your money? I always found that, the balancing act relates very importantly to women, all women, whether you're in leadership or business or management, wherever you are. The balancing act is very important in terms of debt. And I learned that very early in my life. And living a debt-free life as a woman is an ideal, and it's something that we can all work towards as women. Sometimes we start and we need to get involved in debt, but I think how we balance that and how we control that is very important In business, for example, there will be times where you'll have to get yourselves in debt. If you are a career woman and you would want to engage in different types of things and activities, you may be involved in debt. But how you balance your debt, how you view your debt is very important. And I've always, I've taught geography education at university level, and I always tell my final year students that please, you are starting off a new career, try to start off debt free. And that's not easy to do, but you must have a plan in terms of that. So I think a balancing act with career, with family, with home is very important. And balancing your life does not mean that you don't spend more time on certain things. If you are an early career woman, you may actually need to spend more energy and time and effort building up your career. And later on, you actually live through the experience and you spend more time on other things that are relevant to you at that point. And then finally, this is more on a personal level, and I've entitled this nugget of wisdom, "This is me." So in all of this, we must never forget as women that this is about us as an individual, as a woman. Now, as an individual person, you have relationships, like you would find me going wacky with all my friends. And you would even wonder, is this the same person that I know? But you also need to find space for your time to express, space and time to express who you are. And, the childish side of you needs to come out often. And the playfulness of a side of you. Because sometimes if you're a career woman or in academia or business, you get too caught up in the serious side of life. But life does have a lot of lighter moments, which we all need to enjoy and revel in. And I think, personally as well, I always feel that I do not like to surround myself with noise. Let me define noise for you, but there's noise comes from different places. It could be the chatter of people around you, inconsequent chatter of people around you. It could be you, with the TV or any kind of media that you surround yourself with or people that you surround yourself with. Personally, I like my noise to be at a very low level so that I can, hear myself think, basically. So I think we when we surround ourselves with noise, we actually need to be very selective in what we want to surround ourselves with. And then one of the important things for me personally is we live in an age of high tech in terms of media and communication and social media specifically. And I think everything has its positive and negative points. Some influences are highly negative and a lot of them are very positive. So we actually need to, as women, especially in our careers, to weigh these things out. If you're spending a lot of time on social media, it should actually be for your good. It must be you must be learning things. You must not be engaged in idle kind of social media interactions, because that can actually derail you from what you would like to achieve and where you'd like to go, especially with your career. And then my final point under This Is Me is, I've titled it My Beauty Spots. So we are not perfect. And sometimes as women, we want to strive for perfection and we want to make everybody think and see that we are perfect. And I am the first one to admit and say that I am not perfect. I have many, many beauty spots. I don't call them flaws. I say my beauty spots, because those things make me an individual. They make me unique. They make me who I am. So each of you, as a woman, wherever you are, if you're in academic field, if you are as a businesswoman, you have your beauty spots. So beauty spots are actually, when we look at ourselves physically, a beauty spot. Why do we call it a beauty spot? Because it makes you beautiful. It makes you unique. So take those beauty spots and say, this is a beauty spot. It's related to me. For example, I'll use myself as an example. If you have a weight problem, It's your beauty spot. So you look after that beauty spot. And I've struggled with this for a long time in my life. And, it's my beauty spot. I need to deal with it. And many of us have beauty spots that we feel ashamed of. You may have been, growing up, or even whichever situation, abused or raped as a woman. Don't turn that into a negative. It's not a slight on your beauty. It's just a beauty spot. And I would like to leave you with that thought that your beauty spots make you beautiful, and wherever you are, let your beauty spots shine, so that you can use those beauty spots to show how you have lived life, how you have progressed through life, and more importantly, where you are going to. And I think your relationships as well will be enhanced when you're able to share. This is my beauty spot. This is what it means to me. This is what I learned through it. This is what the grief that this beauty spot gave me. But it is there, and I accept it. And very importantly, it's to accept you for who you are. So with all those nuggets that I've shared with you, I hope that you are able to take it and internalize it for yourself. It's actually what I've learned through my various experiences, but more importantly, what I'd like to leave with you. You are unique, and you'll be able to look at how this affects you as a person, especially career women and those of you who are in positions of high stress and you manage a big team, etc. I would like you to just stop and pause every now and then and look at yourself and how much you have to offer. And you do have a lot to offer. So all the very best to you, wherever you are, in whichever place you are. I always believe that now is the right time, today, right now. And I would love to thank you all for listening to me. Goodbye.